Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here for Paint Talks podcast. If you are new to our channel, we would love for you to click subscribe and just know that the Turquoise Iris Journal magazine, our fall volume, is hitting all the mailboxes in all the states and even other countries right now. So go to the turquoiseirisjournal.com, click subscribe. You can grab a digital, you can grab a quarterly, an annual, or even a gift subscription. We would absolutely love your support. So today, my guest is artist Betty Franks. Hello, my friend.
Hello, so excited to be here with you today.
I'm a little bit fangirly, Betty. I'm a little fangirly. The reason is, you guys, I'm just going to just write it out from the beginning. I'm scrolling along and I'm looking at my Instagram comments, and Betty commented and gave me some tips and advice. And I went, wait a minute, is that the Betty Franks whose work I admire? And I'm serious. I'm serious. I even took a screenshot and sent it to my friend Kelly and said, look at this. I'm on Betty's
Awesome.
radar. And she was like, she's so sweet. She's a good person. So really,
Thank you.
that's how this conversation got started, was that you were so polite to take time to give me some tips on my art wall and how it could stop keep banging against the wall
Yes.
while I was.
Oh, yes. I remember that. I
That's what
remember
it
that.
was.
Yes.
And I couldn't fix it from that, but I ended up putting like rag behind it so it wouldn't hit.
Okay.
But anyway, I
Yeah.
I thought that's a great idea if I could figure out how to make that work too.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was so thoughtful of you to share that wisdom with a fellow artist.
Absolutely. Well, that cocomes from personal experience because I had a wall where we had 2x4s put in and then nails so that I could, put them put the canvas at different levels. But every time I used it, I was constantly banging, and everybody in the house could hear when I was in the studio because it was that constant hitting, and it really disrupted my flow of creating because I kind of had to like hold it so that I can paint because the noise was really bothering me and the bouncing back and forth. So I found that if you just put the screws directly into the studs on your wall, then it lays nice and flat, and I haven't had an issue with bouncing since then.
Well, that's so good. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because people are always asking me about the wall that I have up there, and I've had the tarp on the wall and stuff like that. So it's just one of those little things. And you know what? In the art community, we really need to share those type of tips like that. So, um,
Absolutely.
Betty, tell everybody where you are and just kind of a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Okay, I am in sunny California, and truly it is sunny today. Although we are finally going to get some rain tonight, so I'm really excited about that. I got to cover up some furniture I have outside and get that ready for the winter time. But I'm in San Jose, California, which is Central California, or actually considered Northern California. And I grew up here, but I was born in Canada. And when I was 7 years old, we moved to San Jose. And so I grew up here, and this is home to me. But when I was in my mid 20s, I moved to Southern California. And then after 7 years there, I moved up to Seattle for 19 years. And so, I had been gone for like 26 years. So a long time. And I was so grateful to be able to come back because my brother and sister are here. Their families are here. I still had friends and family here. I'm part of the Croatian community. So there's a whole community of people that I only got to see once or twice a year when I visited. So it's so good to be back in that community and amongst all my friends and family.
Oh, I love that. A community like that is very often the thing that motivates us. So,
Absolutely.
right, connection and community for me personally, it's a motivator. And so, like when I know I have the connection and a community, and I just feel safe, like you mentioned, your family's nearby. You just not safe physically, but just safe emotionally
Yeah.
in a community. I feel like it's a motivation to create, and it flows a little bit more easy for me. And for one, I love seeing all of your art behind you. So thank you for setting that up just perfect for us today.
Thank
Um,
you.
I want to dive into a little bit more about your technique and how you've defined your style. But first, let's go back to what you said in the first few years of your life when you were 7, 8, 9 years old, Betty. What did you dream of becoming when you got older?
Oh my goodness. Wow. You know what? I don't recall. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't recall. I really had no desire to be an artist, that's for sure. This didn't come about until just before my 50th birthday, and that was I just celebrated my 61st a couple of days ago. So I've been at this for a decade now, and I don't know how I came upon this. It just kind of fell into my lap, so to speak. I was very stressed out in my job, and I was working in high tech. I was customer service manager for, large groups of people, large projects, and felt so much stress in my life that I needed to do something on the weekends to release that. And so, leading up to my 50th birthday, I was making cards. I was stamping them, making them perfect, redoing them if they weren't perfect. And that's how I would spend hours just, hundreds of dollars to make a card, right? Um, let
But
me
it was
tell you,
soul care. It was soul
it
care.
was it was worth every penny. I loved that time in the laundry room by myself with the door closed and just playing and doing my thing. And then I still remember that moment. I stumbled across mixed media. It was on the internet somewhere. I don't know, maybe a Google search, who knows where I was, but I remember that falling in love feeling like, oh my God, I have to do this. This is what I want to do. And so I spent several years creating mixed media art and really small pieces. And that's why I have a love for working on paper and working on small pieces, because I started off on these little 4x6 cards or 3x5 inch cards. And for several years, I was just doing mixed media. So stamping and collaging and adding paint and adding pens and adding, did I say stencils already? Just
Oh,
whatever I could find, I was adding to these pieces, and just I loved every minute of it. And what I loved most was all those stamps that I was using before. If I didn't do a perfect stamp, that was so perfect. So that imperfection is what I craved. It was like, to me, that messiness, that that imperfect thing that I was creating was so perfect for me.
oh, that makes my heart beat. I say that because I started as a furniture artist. And when I started spraying water on my furniture and letting paint drip,
Yeah.
and people would say, oh, you have a drip. And I'm like, isn't that the most beautiful drip you've ever seen? And, my husband and my mom, they're like, I don't get it. I don't
Yeah,
get
yeah, right.
I
Yeah, I
I've
yeah,
had to be organized my whole life. I've had to be excellent. I've had to be like no mistake, following the guidebook here. And I don't think this is a mistake. This is part of who I
yeah,
am. And the exploration of that, because I did not paint when I was young either. I did not really lean into canvas work till I turned 40. I wanted to at 30, but I tried and I put it all back up and thought, this is way too hard. And I'm
yeah,
I'm I'm not in the season. I'm mommying. I can't do it.
yep, yep.
So it's so inspiring to hear you say that you didn't start painting professionally until you turned 50.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even say I was professional at that point. I was just starting to play, and I was just enjoying that whole process of learning and buying different things and trying them out, and seeing what spoke to me and what
Yeah,
didn't, and just having fun. Yeah, for those first few years was just exploration.
I love that. Now we do that though. We might be creative as kids, but then we kind of compartmentalize all of that creativity to go life, live,
Yes, yes.
raise children, do
Pay the
whatever
bills.
we're doing, paying the bills, right? So it's so freeing to get to the point where you can come back to who you are at your
Yeah,
core. Like you said, you didn't even really know. It's not like you dreamed of becoming an artist. I know I didn't. I didn't have supplies at home. I
yeah,
didn't. I colored when I was at school because there were
yeah,
crowns. I don't know that I even had those things at home. So just exploring that and hearing you say that is so inspiring. And I know not just to me, but to listeners too. So building upon your mixed media, starting small, you definitely don't paint small anymore. Like
no.
you go big, go home. How did that even develop?
Yeah, that took a while to do. Like I said, I started off with those really small pieces. And so it took some time to get the courage and um the the ability to just be able to take something where you're doing small brush strokes and supersizing them to large brush strokes. And I just remember when I finally got my own studio. I was working out of my garage for a number of years, and then I got a studio. And when I got my studio, that's when I really started to supersize my pieces. And I remember going through a number of months where it wasn't working. It wasn't working. I was trying to figure out, how do I take this piece that I created that was small, and how do I get that to 40 by 40 or 48 by 48, even a 36 by 40 or something like that. And it took a while to learn that I needed larger brushes. I needed to move my arms wider, bigger, more moving up and down, where I was so used to just barely moving my hands a bit working on a small piece. So that really took me months to do. And I remember being so frustrated during that time because I can do it small. I just could not figure out how to transfer that to larger. And so it took practice. I kept at it. I kept putting up larger canvases and just trying to figure out, and each one was a learning experience. This kind of worked here. Okay, what did I do there? Oh yes, I got to remember to do that for the next one. And so I always say it takes practice. It takes practice. You can watch 1,000 videos, and I've watched a lot of videos, and you can do all that, but it doesn't work until you physically get in there and start moving your body and start moving your arms, to learn what's going to work for you.
I love that you said that because I try to imagine myself dancing with the canvas. So I'm the absolute opposite though, because I started with the biggest pieces of furniture I could find. So I painted with my whole body. I painted
Hmm.
rolling around a piece, up and down, flipping a piece, turning it upside down. I've literally painted pieces of furniture upside down. So when my back started to say, hey, hey, and my neck started straining was when I kind of started, okay, maybe a 36 by 36 would be easier. My hardest thing, Betty, is to go small. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm there working on watercolors right now, small, and I sit down in a chair and I don't have to move.
Hmm.
It's fascinating to me. It's been years. I'm like, I've never done that. And
Yeah.
so
So
it's hard because I'm
it
trying to
is.
in and put everything on this little, and yet I end up using the whole paper and I end up,
Yeah.
my arms, and I'm like, no, right here, sister, right here. Like it's the opposite of having to
Yeah.
bring everything in. That is hard for me because give me a 60-inch canvas and I'm
Hmm.
swooping paint and I'm picking it up
Yes.
and tilting it. That was more natural because I was used to using my entire body for the
Yeah.
dance. Isn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
weird?
It's muscle memory. So I had to, in order to go large, I had to build up a new muscle memory. And for you need to build up a new muscle memory to go small and work on smaller pieces.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I have found it to be much more relaxing because like I said, I can sit in a chair and I can, work in this space where I can just reach and I don't have to constantly get up and down and move and everything.
Yeah.
So I have found the small so much more relaxing,
Hmm.
which is another piece of me. And it's another layer. I've working on having lower price point,
Yes.
a
Yeah.
smaller piece of art, smaller price, all of that too, so you can have a wider range of clientele. How did you, Betty, learn to price? Because you shifted from creating, exploring to putting your items up for sale. So did that happen from family and friends saying, Betty, I really like this. I'd like to buy it from you? How did that transition happen?
In the beginning, it wasn't family and friends that were interested. It was people on Facebook, because I was posting pretty much daily, on Facebook, so on my page. And then also I belong to several groups. Some of them were like challenge groups where, there was a theme or something to that effect. So I would post there, and it was folks in those groups and on my Facebook page who expressed an interest. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wow, okay, now I've got a new problem. I got to figure out how I'm going to price this. And, you go through a panic mode, what, like, oh my God, now I don't know how to do this. And now I've got to learn this. I got to figure this out. And it took me, what I ended up doing was I ended up looking at other artists that were on a similar path as me, creating similar work as me, and were about the same place in our journeys. Because I certainly didn't want to price my artwork for as somebody who's been doing it for 20 years, because I didn't have that experience yet. So I wanted to price it appropriately. And so I did, but a lot of it was just a guessing game, put something out there. But I went through all those emotions of, is that a good price? I'm not sure if that's a good price. Maybe it's too high. I don't know. No one's going to buy it at that price. I doubt. Maybe I should just lower it. And I hated that. I hated that whole thing. And so one thing that I had learned through, and I forget the gentleman's name, but I learned to take the emotion out of it by creating a spreadsheet, putting in your most common sizes, putting in a price, and that's it. Like, you just go there, that's the price. Don't question it. Don't start, questioning yourself or second guessing yourself, but just put it out there, use that number, take the emotion out of it. If somebody can afford it and they want to buy it, they will buy it. If they can't, that's okay. I make all different sizes of art because of that reason. I like having very affordable art, so my small pieces on paper, and then I like having the really large pieces too.
So many times. Oh my goodness, that's too high. The reason it's set here for a year is because I've priced it too high. Yeah. And so then I would bring down the price and it doesn't sell there either. And over time, practicing, you learn that just the right buyer hasn't seen it yet. And
I truly believe there is a buyer out there for every single piece of art that you make.
I believe that too. I love it. So when you started on your big canvases, Betty,
yeah,
your work, how do you describe your work first off? Your kind of your overall style.
Well, the first thing that, the way that my elevator pitch for my art or what I do is is I create colorful abstract art inspired by my love for fields of flowers. So that alone, I think, helps give people a visual, because when I used to sell my art at art festivals, I'd have people come up and they would ask me, oh, what inspires you, or what is your art all about? And as soon as I said that, they're like, oh yeah, I see that. I see what you mean there. So that's what I create. And I have a love for nature. So it's not always just fields of flowers. For example, when I am driving on the freeway and I see, or, back roads, and I see fences that are falling down, they're old fences, I love that. So you will see in my artwork lines and they're starting to fall downward. I love stepping stones. So I find a way to incorporate, the shape of stepping stones in my artwork. So you'll find that in there, in addition to, parts of a petal or a stem or a trunk of a tree or branches of a tree. All of those are represented in my artwork. And I want to say in a joyous way. And what I mean by that is I love color. And so, nature, I'm looking out the window right now and we've got, our golden hills because they're dry right now, but they're browns and greens and kind of these muted colors, but I love color. And so you're going to see a lot of bright colors, a tree trunk may be represented with red marks as opposed to brown marks. So that's how I represent my love for color.
I love that. And when you said your heels, we flew into San Jose last August. We're driving to Brentwood, where my friend is, and we were doing some filming. And I was teasing her, and I texted her and said, "Why are your heels yellow.
Yes.
Like, where is the green? Because, we don't really even have mountains here. It's just like prairies and everything. I was like,
Yeah.
they're beautiful, but they're yellow. She's
Yeah.
like, they're gold. Why do you think we're the Golden State?
That's right.
I'm like, what? Okay. So that drive from San Jose Airport, right, to
Hmm.
Brentwood, like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's where we were last year. So I could picture what you mean. And one of the colors I would say that jumps out at me of all of your work, across all of your work, is this vivid green. Like, you
Okay.
do use a lot of green, and I can kind of picture that, yeah, right behind you. You've got various
Yeah.
shades, but green really is. So now that really makes sense to me, that nature is your inspiration, and it is such a joyful way. And you've got drips in there and so many different markings. Now, when you create work now, do you still do arts festivals, or are you pretty much exclusively online or in galleries?
Yes, so I ended up stopping doing art festivals because it was just so physically demanding for me.
Mhm.
And I just decided that I really wasn't very happy doing those. And so I switched gears. I made a huge investment buying the whole booth set up and getting everything ready, but you have to do all these things to figure out what's really going to work for you. So I ended up selling all that stuff and I've switched over. I had always been online, so that presence has continued over the years. However, I started looking more at galleries, and I kind of have this love-hate relationship with wanting to be in a gallery. And the love part is, it feels so good to be in a gallery, right? It's like you can say, I'm in a gallery, I'm represented. I love that part of it. But the hate part was so many galleries that I had been in, I didn't feel connected to that gallery. I felt like my artwork wouldn't be represented the way I wanted it to be represented. So
Mhm.
it took me a long time to figure out, what gallery would I want to be in? And fortunately, I found a gallery near me that that was very different. It wasn't your typical gallery. They were a warehouse gallery, and that's what I loved about them. They were located in a warehouse, and they were beautifully displayed in there, but artwork was all stacked up. It wasn't like one piece hanging on the wall with, 10 feet of white space around it. And it was much more casual, but the folks running it loved art, all art. They
Oh,
loved artists, and you could just feel that love when you walked in there and the energy of the place. And I just knew right away, this is the kind of person, this is the kind of gallery that I wanted to represent my artwork. And I was with them for several years before they closed down. The
oh,
lady that owned it decided to retire, but for years, I mean, they did such a spectacular job of representing me and selling my artwork. I sold the most artwork through them over those years. It was so fantastic, and working with them was beautiful.
and that style sounds more like you, in my opinion. Like, the fact that you love the joyful and the playful and the
Yes.
energy in your paintings, the energy that you put into it, it needs to be a place that's casual
Yeah.
and fun. And
Right.
when you speak, you don't have to feel like you have to be quiet. Like, it just needs to be this fun atmosphere where it's life is expected to be enjoyed and played. And so,
Yeah.
have you ever thought of opening something like that since that's great.
No. Oh, wow, that would be no one's ever asked me that. I would say no, and that's like a flat no immediately. I have this sign that is in front of me at my desk, and it says, "Just say no." And I had to put that up because for years I was jumping at everything and I was consuming my time saying yes to everybody, which meant I was saying no to the things that I really wanted to do. And
Right.
so running a gallery, not in my foreseeable future at all. I plan to, one of the things that I've got in my plans for next year, 2025, is I am packing up my house, putting it in storage, and I am taking off in my RV for a year to travel through Canada, through the US, and create art and do workshops and just I've I love being in an RV. I love traveling. And so those are my plans for next year. So doing a gallery is not going to fit into that.
Okay, fair enough. But does your RV have enough space for you to create big pieces, or will you just kind of compromise?
I'm going to compromise. My very first love is working small. And so I'm going to work small during that period. But I do have enough room if I wanted to, for example, maybe like a 24 by 24 inch.
Yeah.
But my goal is to work small and to, stop in a town for a week, create art during that week, and then sell that art that's inspired by my visits to, that town or that area, whether it's a national park or a small town or something on the coast.
Mhm.
So that's what I would like to do. Those are my plans for next year.
Oh, so exciting.
Yeah,
Will this be a solo trip?
it is. It's a solo trip. I'm going on all by myself.
So you're going to drive too and do all of that?
Yes,
Wow, girl.
yes, yes,
That's
yes.
amazing. So you mentioned in your article, because we of course had the pleasure of featuring you in the Turquoise Iris Journal, and your vivid colors and your images were so beautiful. We were so grateful to have all of this. And there's a story that sticks out for me because you mentioned your brother, and I have one older brother, and he has said some things to me that have really pushed me forward in my own business. And I am just curious about that. You mentioned your brother and your sister earlier. What impact have your siblings played in just doing this unconventional lifestyle that you have,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Wow, yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say my brother and sister are so supportive of what I do and what I have been doing and the career that I have built for myself. So it's such a blessing to me to have that kind of support. My brother is a creative as well, and so you know we have some commonality there where we have a love for creating. He does not paint. He is creative in building, and so he's so fantastic. If you've got a problem with, for example, storage or something you want to build, he will come up with the best solutions.
Oh
So
man,
that's
everybody loves
yeah,
that guy. Everybody loves
and
that guy.
and he will build, not only create it, but he'll build it for you. So yeah, so he's got that creativity. Um, yeah, and the story that I had talked about was, how he was commenting on my artwork and about my process, and and that still sticks with me today, even though he said it to me years ago, and it was just so uh, pivotal in my artwork, I guess I can say, is that somebody makes a comment. It's something that you don't think about, and somebody makes a comment about what you're doing, and it just kind of like it gets buried in the back of your head, and it keeps coming up until you find a way to not necessarily address it, but try to figure out, how does that fit into your world? How does that fit into your artwork? And so I was very grateful that he had made the comment about my process and trusting my process, and how that really helped me hone in on my process and what I do, and better understand myself as an artist.
I love that. And I'm grateful for your brother too, because that was the key of our entire magazine, was
Yes,
trust the process, and including that story was a very special touch. So thank you for sharing that with us. Um,
absolutely.
my brother had told me years ago, when I started on Facebook doing lives, and I was going live almost every day, showing people how to paint, being the most vulnerable, trying to have a conversation, read comments, and paint something pretty.
Yes.
Just totally out of my element, being so shy, growing up so shy. And he said to me, I just asked for a raise. And I figured if you could do those things you're doing, which I can't believe you're doing, the least I could do is do this, 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 and this. You're so inspiring. And we're both tears in our eyes. And I'm like,
Oh,
are you kidding?
oh,
And he's like, you're inspiring me. I can't believe you're doing these things. Like, it's just blowing me away. So I feel like I got to step up my game. And I want to thank you because I got that big raise. And so I'm like,
that's
okay.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And it's amazing how, what you're doing inspires people in different ways. It's not, and it doesn't end up being the way that we think it does. I get emails from folks who tell me how my YouTube videos have inspired them, or helped them get through a block that they had, or got them back into creating art again. I just love hearing those stories. And I'm just so, it makes me feel so much more fulfilled sharing what I do, so that I can help others folks do what they love to do.
Right. And following that purpose is what we're all trying to do, right? Is following that purpose, make a difference and have an
Yeah,
impact. And your artwork definitely has an impact on people.
thank
It
you.
really, really does. So I wrote down another question because while you were talking, I'm very curious about like what a typical day or week is for you, and kind of how much time per week are you able to spend creating? Of course, it varies, I know.
Yeah.
But for you, what's a typical morning and day look like for you, Betty?
Sure, sure. Okay, so very typical for me is when I get up, I get on my computer right away. And that really comes from working in high tech. And when I went to my job, I got on my computer right away, and I got down to work. So for me, that's very normal, very natural for me to do. So I didn't fight it. I was trying to figure out, what rhythm works best for me. I'll tell you this, I will never create in the morning. It just doesn't work for me. Getting on the computer, getting my work, my what I call my desk work done, taking care of emails, taking care of marketing, website, all of those things to run an art business. Doing postings, for example, that's included there too. And then in the afternoon, so that takes me up to about noonish, 1 o'clock, and then I typically head to the studio. I'll bring lunch with me often if I don't eat it at home, and I will just spend several hours in the studio in the afternoon. And that's my best time to work. Even when I'm in Croatia, I'll do my desk work in the morning. I'll create in the afternoon or even in the evening hours, because it's convenient. It's right there. Here in San Jose, I've got a studio, so to be here late at night, I don't really like to do that. I prefer to go home like when everybody else does during rush hour, which is typically around 5 or 6 p.m. I'll head home for dinner. So my time will be divided up between those. But I'm going to tell you right now, I do not create every day. I'm not capable of creating every day. And I figured that out years ago, that it's almost like I'm forcing myself to go to the studio and create when I'm not feeling creative. So there will be, sometimes I'll go in every other day. Sometimes several days will go by before I get back into the studio. And I find that when that happens, I am so much more creative.
Hmm.
For example, last week when I came back from Croatia, the next day or 2 days later, I went to the studio, and I had a piece that I had started in Santa Fe earlier this year. What year? Where am I? Yes, earlier this year, I was at a workshop attending as a student, and I
Right.
started a piece on canvas, rolled up canvas. Well, I had to stretch it when I was here. I didn't do a good job of stretching it.
Okay.
And I put it up on the wall, and I continued working on it, and I got it done. I'm looking at it now. It's over across my wall, but on the other side. But I came in today, and I was like, "Oh, that's done. I love that. It's there's nothing more to do." So that explosion of having an opportunity, I had like several hours after not creating for like a week and a half. Just it kind of like builds up in me, and I just gotta let it loose and let it go. And I find that I do some of my best work when several days goes by.
I think that is so good that you pay attention to your body and you don't try to
Yeah,
force your creativity.
right.
It's completely counterintuitive, right? And counterproductive
Mm.
if we actually try to force it. Um, there have been times where I've sat and looked at a piece of furniture or a canvas, but mostly a piece of furniture, and looked at it and thinking, you going to say something? Like, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? You want to be blue or purple? Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand what you want from me. And
talk to me.
like, you don't really need you to tell me what to paint. Because then you think
Yeah,
about what's sellable and what's this and what's that.
yeah.
Um, I love that you take breaks. Now, if you're taking a break and if it's like you took a couple of days off, you just kind of, is it a day of self-care? Is it an artist date with yourself, or is it tending to your own garden at home? What would you do if you stayed home?
Yeah, so these days it's actually working on Lucy, my RV. So when I've got some spare time, I've been doing some renovations. So everything's been painted on the inside, and now I'm kind of like, replacing the sink faucets, and I am adding new wallpaper and things like that. So doing my creativity that way, because I really love I think if I wasn't a painter, I would have been an interior decorator, because I do love that. And mixing and matching and textures and all of that stuff that I do in my artwork, I love doing with my, um, with my RV or with my home as well. So I do that. But yeah, for me, it's like oftentimes I don't even know what day it is, because every day for me is a Friday. Every day is a Sunday. I love Mondays. I love Tuesdays. I love every day, because I can structure it the way I want it to be, based on what I'm working on and what needs to be worked on, and then just in the middle of the week, I'm taking time off to do things that I want to do.
Yeah. Now, I know you have to take good care of yourself too, because it takes a lot of energy to do, studio work and big paintings. So, do you have kind of a daily routine on, working out or taking care of yourself, eating well, that kind of thing?
I would say for the most part, I eat well. I tend to cook all my food. I tend to eat mostly, all fresh stuff. I'm not big on packaged foods, and I'm not big on carbs. So I don't eat a lot of like pasta or rice, or I do like bread. I do love my sourdough bread, but
Mhm.
potatoes, things like that, I don't eat a whole lot of. It's mostly vegetables and meat. And then I used to, before this trip, I was walking with my sister who lives two doors down from me.
Wow,
Yeah,
wonderful.
I know.
Wow.
So we would go for walks almost every night. But she's having a little issue right now with her foot. And so we're waiting for that to heal so that we can get back into walking every night. But yeah, we do a lot of walking. And one thing that I want to do and I still haven't done on a regular basis is meditation, or just, I don't even like to call it meditation, because that makes it feel like it's something like you have to set aside special time just to do this in a special place. But I want to start, I just had pop up on my phone, breathe. That's another one of those things. If you can just remember to take a few deep breaths each day, that really helps your system to slow down, to not be in that fight or flight mode, which I tend to be in a lot of the time. I tend to just look at life that way. So I'm trying to remind myself to breathe and slow down and relax a bit. And so having just some time, like when I'm in the studio or even when I'm at home, just taking some time to sit down and just relax for a few minutes and not think about, work, and not think about what needs to be painted, and things of that nature. Uh, and just practicing that slowing down. Another thing I've done recently is I've stopped drinking entirely. So not to say that I was a drunk or anything like that, but I loved having a glass of wine every night with dinner. But what I discovered was that I didn't feel good in the morning. My joints were achy, like my hands, when I would tighten them, I could just feel the achiness in them. And so it's been several months now that I've stopped drinking. I thought I couldn't do it because I've always had a glass of wine with dinner, but I just decided to stop, and I just feel so much better, especially in the morning.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I know it's kind of
Yeah,
personal, but on the other hand, it's very helpful to know what other people do, especially women, and the drinking part and the
yeah,
like, just people go through menopause and they have joint pain regardless if they have a drink or not. So anything that
Right.
can lessen that
Yes.
is so helpful. And we learn from others' experiences. And I could tell you probably took pretty good care of yourself. And so thank you for letting me ask that question and sharing what you do, because you got to have
Yeah.
energy, girl. You got to use your whole body to dance all over that canvas, don't you?
Well, yes, yes. And then just to throw in there, just so you guys don't think I'm like Miss Goody Two Shoes, I have to have chocolate every day, dark chocolate every day. Not a day goes by without dark chocolate in it. It's my true love. Yes.
That's your thing. So
It
that
is.
my mother is that way, and we'll be, somewhere, or she'll slip a piece of dark chocolate. She says, "You want a piece of dark chocolate?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, Mama, I'm good." Or like, I'm gonna go eat this instead. But and that's good for you too. Let's be real. Like the dark chocolate is really good for your heart
It
and everything.
is. It
So
is.
thank you for that. Now, with your business part of it and the sales and getting things listed and your social media, do you do all of this yourself, or do you have an assistant that helps you?
Yes, so for years I did all of it by myself, and a couple of years ago, my daughter was looking for part-time work, and so I brought her on to help me out. So she'll help out with like Pinterest posts. She'll do, I'll help her get those set up, and then she'll do all the posting for those. She'll help me posting on groups because I have like um, images of my artwork that I like to post on groups. So I get that set up for her. We use a program called Basecamp. So that's where I can put all of the work that needs to be done. She goes through, she checks off, what's getting done. If I've got art to ship out, for example, she'll help me out with that. Just got back from Croatia where I created 17 new pieces, smaller pieces. And so I I only send those out to the people on my email list. I did that yesterday. All 17 sold within the hour. Super grateful to the folks on my email list. I'm telling you, if you are an artist that is selling your art, you've got to build your email list. It is so important. Those are the folks who love you, love your art, and want to own your art and want to learn about you more. So build your email list. And so she'll help me with the shipping pack. I'll help with the packaging up, but she'll help with the creating the labels and getting those all out the door.
Oh,
So it's great
isn't
having
that
part-time
amazing?
help.
Oh, the
Yeah.
part-time help. It's
Yes.
amazing. My husband does that kind of stuff for me. And I am so grateful because
Yeah.
it's those tedious things that
Yes.
repetitive that I don't like and that he thrives in, being just like black and white. He's an electrician by
Yes.
trade, and so
Yeah.
he does all of that for me. Oh, and before that, I had my niece helping me for a couple of years with it.
Yeah.
But it is a hard thing to let go of certain things, but it's also a game changer. And learning to
It is.
scale your business like an email list, and sometimes you need copy and organization
Yes.
and new courses, and I know for sure I could not do it without my beautiful team that helps me with,
Yes.
even if they just have to listen to an idea.
Yeah.
Like, "Hey, I got an idea." Well, here she goes again. So
Yep.
we use Trello for those listening. We use Trello. It's been around forever, but we have every project, everything set up. All four of us are on that, and so we planning a workshop, planning a
Mhm.
retreat, everything is there. The magazine, that's how we organize the magazine. That's how we order content from you. We put a Google Drive link and all of our contributors. So thank goodness for people who want to help and support and
Yeah.
make our lives and businesses better. That says a lot about you and your daughter, I must say, on a personal level. That says a lot about the two of you that you can work together also.
Yes, yes, I know, right? It's a different dynamic, and it's hard not being the mother, but I have to, I try to remember, to treat her like an employee and not as my daughter. So there's that little, shift that you've got to do in there.
Oh, well, no doubt you guys are doing so well with that. Um, I am very curious about your workshops or your teaching. I know that you love to teach also and are a major supportive artist of other men and women. So what have you found to be your favorite part of working with others and teaching through either retreats or workshops? What's been the favorite part of that, Betty?
Yeah, I would have to say right off the bat is learning from everybody who attends a workshop. So it's not just me teaching, but I always like pick up something from a student that's there, something that I didn't think about, or just seeing something in a different perspective in a different way. So I just love that. And also there's this bond that you create when you teach in person. And it's just so magical. It's just, you're coming together, you've got your tribe right there, you're all on the same page, you're all on this journey together. And to me, I get this connection to with each person. And over, the 4 days that we're together, it builds up, and it's just fantastic. I love teaching in person, but I also love teaching online because I can reach so many more people that can't show up, to my workshops. And so, like I said earlier, I get these emails on a regular basis of how my workshops have helped, or my online courses have helped folks, pursue their dreams, pursue their goals, and, just getting them back into creating again.
It's really wonderful, Betty, that you're able to do that and that you thrive in that area.
Yes.
Really, it's so very special. I also love an in-person event. Just the anticipation beforehand, the time, the energy, the like you said, be everybody being at the same situation. And
Yeah.
I always tell people, everybody always says that there's nothing new out there. Everything's already been done, and there's nothing new. But I like to break it down and go, but this moment with you and you and you and you and you and you in this dynamic at this place, doing what we're doing, it's never been done before. So we
Yep.
are creating our own original art just by being together. And I think that if we intermingle our life and art, that's exactly what we can do, is that we have one in the other, and they just kind of fit together when we receive that and when we're open to that. So I am grateful for other creatives who want to teach me and let me learn too.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
wait, say that again. What did you just say? And that's like what
Yep.
I said. And there are when we opened today. Thank you for that tip that you gave me. That allowed me to
Yeah.
fangirl. That allowed me to go, well, wait a minute, maybe Miss Betty would be in my magazine. And I was so grateful when you said yes, and you were thrilled to do it. So before we go today, really, really important questions. If you and I are going to eat together for dinner tonight, where are we going? What are we eating? It's Betty's choice.
Ooh. All right. We are going to, you know what? I love pork chops. I love a good pork chop. And so it would definitely be kind of an American, but kind of a European twist place where you've got a nice, delicious pork chop that is, I don't know, maybe something added to it to really, you know, make it even more juicy and delicious. Definitely with some potatoes. I know I said I don't eat a lot of potatoes, but when I eat out, I eat everything. There's no, I don't believe in always restricting. You've got to splurge every once in a while. So whenever I eat out, I'll eat everything on my plate. So it'll definitely have potatoes and some veggies on the plate and some really good bread.
Really good sourdough bread. And are we having
Yes.
dessert? Is there a dessert involved in this?
Oh my God. Yes. There is. It's going to be something with dark chocolate in it.
Yummy. Okay, so let's say after that we come back to your studio and we're going to create together. Are we listening to music? And if so, what kind of music are we listening to, Betty?
Okay, so typically when I create, I listen to podcasts or audiobooks
Okay.
because what I have found is that I can get out of my head and just create and not question what I'm doing. And what I found was when I am listening to music, there was too much chatter going on in my head. But if I listened to a story, I was very involved in that story. I was processing what it was being said. So when I'm working by myself, I only listen to audio or podcasts or something where somebody is talking. Now, that being said, I've got a friend that I have known Tony since high school. And recently we started creating together, like on Wednesday evenings after he's still working. So after work, he'd come to my studio and we listened to 80s music. So like the Clash and the Ramones and the Pretenders and Rolling Stones, all the old stuff. And I love that. I love it.
I love that. So are we dancing too? Like, do we dance or are we just putting?
I'm good with dancing. Yeah, sometimes when I do put on music, I will dance around. I've got a 10 by 10 carpet down from when I used to do an inside festival, and I had to have a 10 by 10 carpet. So I've got a 10 by 10. It's my dance space too.
Oh, fantastic. Well,
Yeah,
that sounds like a wonderful time, Betty. I hope that one of these days we will actually get to meet in person, hug your neck, and I would love to see all your brilliant colors up close and personal.
that would be wonderful. Thank you so much for including me in your latest edition of your magazine. I'm so thrilled to be a part of it.
Thank you. Really, it means the world to be able to feature you and highlight and hear a little bit more of your story. Thank you, Betty Franks. Everybody else, please scroll down into the show description. There are links there for you. Go check out her work. I promise you, you will not be disappointed if you have not already seen her work. And make sure you're following her on social media as well. This video is going to go onto my YouTube channel as well as where all podcasts are played. So again, go to the turquoiseirisjournal.com. Check it out, grab a subscription, buy one for your mama, your sister, your brother, whoever. And we really appreciate your support. And we will see you back next time for another episode of Paint Talks podcast. Thanks, everyone.